Welcome back to the Social Restaurant Podcast. This is Nate Riggs, and I am here with two very special guests today. Joining me from Zoës Kitchen, Rachel Phillips-Luther, who is their VP of Marketing, and I also have Susan Ganeshan, the CMO of newBrandAnalytics, who's a partner of Zoës. So thanks very, very much, Rachel and Susan, for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me. Yes, me too. Thanks.
So, real quick, I guess let's start with Rachel. Would love to know a little bit more about your background. I see that you've kind of been with Zoës Kitchen now for a few years. Tell me a little bit about how you landed there and what kind of brought you up to being the VP of Marketing with the brand.
Sure. I actually began my career on the agency side. So I began with Fleishman Hillard, a prominent public relations group, and really at that point thought that I would navigate that path and become a PR exec, but determined I really enjoyed kind of the analytics and the brand side, and moved into the restaurant space fairly quickly and fell in love. I think once you're in hospitality, it's very difficult to navigate away. So I've been a restaurant marketer now for, I guess, over a decade. And, with Zoës, it was an easy and natural transition. I'm a Zoës consumer, and therefore this job, not only is it kind of a dream job for me, but it makes it very easy to be intuitive in my decision-making, and certainly has been part of the reason we found some great success and really changing the game in terms of how we are marketing the brand and really what we're doing from a consumer perspective with the brand today.
Very, very interesting. And then, Susan, now you've been with newBrandAnalytics for how long?
I've been with newBrandAnalytics for about a year and a half. We are a 3-year-old company focused on solutions for the restaurant, hospitality, and retail spaces. So it's been a great year and a half learning a lot about individual restaurants, franchises, and the entire space, and helping them gain social intelligence and improve their operations with that data.
So how was it making the jump into the multi-unit industry? You talked about retail and restaurants. Has that been a big transition from what you did previously?
I've sold software for the last 20 years to large organizations and organizations really of all sizes. So the fun part about this jump is that each restaurant is unique, and their needs, their desires, their goals all follow their brand promise. And so being both a marketer and a software person, and then helping marketers at these restaurant companies improve their business, it's just been a great experience in the last year and a half. Not to mention my favorite part, which is every time we sign a new customer, we do our best to get to at least one of their locations and experience their food if we haven't already. And who doesn't love that about being in the restaurant business?
This is absolutely a fringe benefit of being involved with restaurants, is all the wonderful things you get to eat, which is interesting because obviously there's this big fast casual push right now in terms of a lot of these concepts, and that's kind of where Zoës fits in. So Zoës was founded, I believe, in 1995 in Alabama, and currently operates 87 locations across 15 states. So tell me a little bit more about the brand. This is a Mediterranean concept, correct?
Correct. Zoës Kitchen, you mentioned, 1995, has been around for quite a while. So I think one of the things that's important to note is that Zoës Kitchen was not born out of kind of the emergence of this Mediterranean diet really being popular in press right now. Zoë Cassimus is a real woman. I actually had the ability to have dinner with her, I guess, 2 weeks ago in her home in Birmingham. She's still there. And she really just wanted to bring her family recipes and everything that was special about her culture to a restaurant in Birmingham, Alabama. And so she opened a small restaurant. It was fast casual before fast casual was cool, and began selling, lean proteins, grilled items, really focusing on an abundance of fresh fruits, vegetables, using fresh herbs to deliver flavor. And so that's where Zoës Kitchen was born. Her son, John, really saw that there were a number of people enjoying Zoës Kitchen there in Alabama, and decided to open up a couple more locations. And then in 2007, Brentwood and associates out in California identified that, these people are onto something here, and we're thankful enough to have their dollars invested, and we've been growing ever since. So I think Zoës Kitchen is really about, being born in the Mediterranean and raised in the South. I think people get a little confused because we have some chicken salad, we've got pimento cheese, but that's really a function of being raised, right there in Birmingham with Zoe, and her church friends and everyone that loved her loved everything she prepared. So our menu is a bit quirky, but predominantly you'll find all of those Mediterranean classic flavors. It's not Greek. So Zoës Kitchen, I think oftentimes people walk in expecting to find a gyro. You won't find a gyro at Zoës. Instead, you'll find more classic preparation methods of Mediterranean cuisine and lots of rich, bold flavors. We have no microwaves, no fryers. So I think really what we aim to deliver is delivering goodness from the inside out, and your body really feels that along with your mind when you walk out of Zoës.
So it's a powerful combination, the health factor surrounding Mediterranean foods with a little bit of an Alabama twist to it. I really like that idea. The partnership between newBrandAnalytics and Zoës Kitchen then was around this idea of social intelligence. So what I'd like to hear, maybe this is a good question for Susan, is tell me a little bit about how you define social intelligence as a term. What does that mean?
Yeah, thanks, Nate. So social intelligence is really about harnessing the power in the thousands of online reviews and customer feedback in social sites and review sites. We're looking at everything from Twitter to Facebook to TripAdvisor to OpenTable to Yelp. And we help a brand like Zoës understand all of that feedback in a very detailed way. We help them understand what part of that feedback is focused on food or service or pricing and value. And we allow them to drill into these very low-level details to understand how they might harness that data to ultimately improve their business. So we really want to enable these businesses to take all this data that's out there on the web and put it to good use. And that's what we call social intelligence.
So this is much bigger than just sentiment analysis, whether or not somebody likes or dislikes the brand. What you guys, at least what I think I heard you say, is that you're digging into specific aspects of a brand and then pulling back all kinds of data. So customer service versus product offering. Is that really the gist of newBrandAnalytics?
That's a great way to summarize it. And what people do with this is they monitor new menu items, or they fix supply chain issues, or as they open a new store, they make sure that the service standards and the management team are meeting their organization's high standards. They perform performance analysis and use the data to help train their staff on how to be even more friendly and more courteous. And then finally, they use it as a competitive benchmark to understand on a location-by-location basis how they compare to their closest neighbors, and understand what it takes to lure those consumers to their business. Really, really powerful data.
So this sounds like it sounds like a lot of really good insights that are very actionable for restaurant marketers and even down to chefs and the folks who are coming up with the products. From Rachel, I'd love to find out, what does this program look like at Zoës in terms of using social intelligence? What are you guys doing, and how are you building this in? Does it fit in the marketing department? Does it fit in customer service? Tell me a little bit about what that looks like at Zoës.
NBA, newBrandAnalytics platform, actually, runs across multiple disciplines at Zoës Kitchen. But I think, one of the things that attracted us to the intelligence was the robust dashboard, which Susan mentioned. And really what we're able to do is not just kind of the tactical things that were mentioned there, so diagnose a specific restaurant's potential, issues, or look at what consumers are saying in a new market, or, gauge price sensitivity. Instead, what we're using newBrandAnalytics to do is really ensure that we're building one-on-one relationships with each and every guest in the digital space. And I think, if you're a marketer today and you're attempting to navigate kind of this digital terrain, what we all know and are feeling is that there are so many different channels that are feeding in that you're really unable, until you invest in a platform like this, to discern how to address each and every one of those channels and reach out and develop a relationship. And I fundamentally believe in the way that we have built the marketing strategy at Zoës Kitchen is that it's about one-on-one relationships, exactly as we're asking the general manager in each brick-and-mortar location to create, that those are the relationships a marketing team must create online. And so new brand analytics, far and above all of the things that Susan mentioned, which certainly are incredibly beneficial, it's enabled me to ensure that we are meeting each and every consumer's needs and that we're reaching out to them directly to address any potential issues that they've had or to celebrate the things that they love about Zoës. And so from a qualitative perspective, it's provided us with a really hard, tangible way to feed into our complete marketing platform. Now, certainly from a quantitative perspective, it offers a variety of different data points that are very helpful as we determine strategically what priorities are in the organization. So, for instance, when working with culinary, I can dive in and understand that pita bread today might be an issue in a part of the country where we have a different distributor. And so, those are really key indicators that are allowing us to make good business decisions. But, as we kind of look at it globally, this is really the tool we're using to ensure that we're meeting the benchmarks we've set from a marketing perspective to ensure that the brand is functioning in the way we want it to in the digital space.
So for you as a marketer, then this is a tool that kind of gives you a pulse on how the brand's being received in the marketplace. How difficult or what are some of the things that you've had to do to prepare your management? Because obviously you have to kind of report up from this data and turn that into insights that they can use to make business decisions. So how has that education process been when you're looking at something that's very new and kind of pushing the edge in terms of analytics?
At Zoës, we like to say that we share everything with positive intent. So I think anytime you're using a system or a dashboard that provides information that essentially is giving the operator some type of feedback on how they're doing, that it needs to be delivered in that way. So as long as you frame it with positive intent and you're sharing this information in a way that allows these business people to make better decisions for their guests and ultimately for their business, which in turn drives profitability and drives their bonuses. I think that, when you frame it in that way, you're able to really, find buy-in because you're using this information in the same way in the field as you are in the home office. And so instead of using this as a stick, which I think sometimes can be the easiest way to use information that might be sharing obstacles, hurdles, or opportunities, that's location specific, we really use this as, hey, here's some insight. How do you think we should address this? And then we allow the operator to tell us how they can, really take a potential opportunity and turn it into a win for the brand.
So there's got to be some really interesting examples or stories that you've come across from using new brand analytics and really digging into delivering that type of intelligence. What pops out in your mind? What's something that kind of caught you off guard or surprised you when you discovered it? And then what did you guys do about it?
I think one of the kind of important discoveries and something that's occurring daily, this isn't just, anecdotal or a one-off, is that, as we're looking at all of the various, tweets, blogger mentions, there's so many different channels that are feeding in, and we're reaching back out to those folks. We had a blogger recently in a new market mention that she loved everything. She thought it tasted great, but, her last comment was, but it's not really Mediterranean food. Huh. And it's important to note that new brand analytics, when they are delivering these insights to you, each review is then broken into individual insights. So within one comment or one review, you may have 6 different insights that are all color-coded differently. And those color codes, of course, indicate if, it's a positive, negative, or, it's an unbiased review. So, this last comment, it's not really Mediterranean food, was not positive nor negative, but it allowed us to reach out and begin having dialogue with this specific blogger as to what Mediterranean food is. And for Zoës Kitchen, really the leader in fast casual Mediterranean, we're bringing Mediterranean mainstream. And there's a really big misconception about what Mediterranean food is. And it allowed us to begin that dialogue and ultimately to win a relationship in that space with this specific blogger who has come in numerous times now and has begun educating her audience with more than 25,000 VPMs to really help them understand why Zoës Kitchen indeed is Mediterranean. And so those are the really valuable opportunities that have surfaced from a brand perspective. Now, naturally, there's a million examples that exist from more of a specific ops and tactical perspective as well. So I mentioned pita bread. We did have an area of the country where we noticed pita bread was not nearly as highly ranked as some of our other regions, and so our director of food and beverage was able to address that very quickly. So I think depending on your role in the organization and really ultimately what you're looking to get out of the program, you can really use the data in a variety of ways.
It seems like that the data and the insights that you guys get would be very applicable to test markets or even seasonal items in terms of being able to figure out, is this really resonating with our core audience? Have you gone down that road in terms of using the data to test different new items?
We use it as one of the data points to assess something like success of a seasonal or limited time offering. However, I think that one of the other things you have to always be certain you're looking at is your PMIX, total sales. There's a variety of different data points you can use in conjunction with new brands. New brands gives us the ability to have the qualitative perspective. So, for instance, if an item isn't performing as well as we anticipated, then yes, we're able to dive in and diagnose what potentially that item is or is not delivering to the consumer. So I think at Zoës we're using the information in a variety of different ways. We don't use it as often for performance of new items. But certainly I can see where that would be a benefit.
But I think it's a testament to you and your folks as well in terms of being able to pick up on the little nuances, particularly in the example that you gave with the blogger that was questioning whether or not it was real Mediterranean food. A lot of other brands would have looked at that and simply passed that on as somebody's negative opinion. But I find it interesting that you guys picked up on that and asked more questions and wanted to find out, why do you feel that way, and what is the definition of Mediterranean food? So how is this program going to evolve? What's next for social intelligence at Zoës?
At Zoës, I think we've actually kind of taken the next step. Something that's probably important to mention is that we recently launched our mobile app, and that app actually delivers guest satisfaction information by location to our operators. And one of the things I was really cautious about was engaging and building that guest satisfaction tool into our mobile app. And I wanted and knew that it was important to give the consumer the opportunity to share open-ended feedback. I think all of us know as marketers that that's the most valuable insights you can garner from your audience. And yet, with a very small team, Zoës Kitchen is still growing, and at 87 locations, we still have 3 folks on the marketing team. So we also knew we couldn't take all of that open-ended feedback and begin to assess and determine if there were any insights there that we needed to react to. And so we were actually able to partner with newBrandAnalytics, and we've created a data integration. So there's a one-way data feed from the mobile app to the system. And then the system is able to code, scan, and report against all of those data points that are fed through via the mobile app. And so for us, that was really kind of the aha moment where we were able to take the software that we are already using and apply it to some new technology that we knew was going to be incredibly beneficial for the brand. And then when we look at our overall brand health, which is ultimately how we view the newBrandAnalytics scoring system. So I don't know if Susan mentioned, but there is a letter score, a letter grade given to you each week and each month. Okay. And that's based on all of the various insights that are coded. And so being able to have those mobile app insights actually feed into that overall brand health rating really gives me the comfort to know that real consumers that are having experiences each and every day, up to 11 to 15 per location per day right now at Zoës Kitchen, are fueling that brand health rating. So for us, if we can ensure that brand health rating always remains kind of in that A category, and we can include real-time consumer-level data, from experiences they're having that very day. That's how I sleep well at night. So that's really kind of the next step that we've taken to evolve how we're using new brands.
With well over half of U.S. mobile devices now being smartphones, it sounds like you guys have put yourself in a position to really get there, on the forefront of this and be prepared for what's only going to be more adoption to come down the pipeline. Real quick, Susan, what is the right type of a brand for New Brand Analytics? In terms, you mentioned that you guys do a lot of business with restaurants, but is this a tool that's really only for chain restaurants, or is this something that's available for more startup or individual concepts?
Let me answer that question in 1 second. I just want to go back to something that Rachel said about engaging and connecting with the consumers. I love her use case, and we do have many customers using us for just that. Understanding each and every review, and either having a core team of marketers within their business replying to both positive and negative reviewers. It's really important, and something that's not completely obvious, to note that you do need to reply and connect with positive reviewers as much as you need to connect with negative reviewers, because they are oftentimes surprised and delighted by that connection. So a little bit of statistics for you. 85% of people are very happy when a business responds to their public online comments, and 27% of people were delighted with a public response to their social feedback, whether that feedback was positive or negative. In other words, it's super important if you're a company that cares about your brand to do that sort of engagement and help the help the consumer understand that you are listening, and when it's appropriate, you're fixing the experience rather than trying to fix the customer, as we sometimes say. So with that, I will answer your question, Nate, which is what kind of businesses do we work with? Well, in addition to fast casual restaurants like Zoës, there are several others, Nando's Peri Peri, many of the new salad concepts like Sweet Green or Chopped. We work with Five Guys and Smashburger and many other burger ventures out there. We also work with casual dining like Ruby Tuesday, Miller's Ale House, Golden Biersch, and then we go towards the more fine dining with organizations like Legal Seafood, the Garces Group, CR Guests, and so on. So, on Star Restaurants out of New York, which is a big one for us. Somebody who's very advanced in their use. But what I'd like to say is one thing about whether you feel like you might be interested in using this kind of data or not. We find that there's a maturity scale. You don't have to be as mature as Zoës and producing a mobile app for use by your general managers in order to reap the benefits of this data. You can start with just understanding what this data is telling you and using it for your basic social intelligence and fixing some of your basic operational challenges. You can elevate that to engaging with customers, and finally, you can use it strategically to define new menu items or new store locations and really get into the competitive side. So don't be afraid, to any brand, I would say, don't be afraid to give it a try and take a look, because you'll be surprised at how easy it is to climb that social maturity ladder.
It's a very, very good point to wrap up on, is that, at some point, every brand has to get started, whether or not you're a small restaurant, a large chain, various different segments. So it's never, too early to kind of dig in and start to get your head around just what data is out there, because I think for a lot of brands, once they see the data, as restaurant marketers, they'll be able to figure out what to do with it. It's just a matter of you don't know what you don't know until you go and look. So with that, I really appreciate you guys joining the podcast today, and I wish you the best of luck, both of you companies, in terms of really using the data to drive the business and create better marketing and engage consumers. Again, my name is Nate Riggs, and this is The Social Restaurant. My guests today are Rachel Luther-Phillips, VP of Marketing for Zoës Kitchen, and Susan Ganeshan, the CMO of newBrandAnalytics, a social intelligence company. Go ahead and tune in next week for the Social Rep podcast. And again, I'm Nate Riggs, nateriggs.com.